introductions. We'll go around and introduce ourselves.
Rebecca, would you mind starting out for us?
Sure. My name is Rebecca Estep. I work here at HRPDC and with our environmental education programs.
John Mahaley, I work here at the HRTPO in transportation planning. You'll hear a little bit more about that later.
Judy Hatch, citizen of Chesapeake.
Janice Taylor, City of Virginia Beach.
If you could go over here to this table. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Am I next?
With this table, yes, actually.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rodney McDivitt. I'm a resident of Chesapeake and a strategist here in town.
Hi, everybody. I'm Pam Brandy, better known as Prayer Warrior on Duty. I am a Chesapeake resident in Hughesville.
Hi, good morning. I'm Carolyn White, and I am the advocate for the Pughesville Civic League, and I live on the Suffolk side.
Hello everyone, I'm Glenda Evans. I am actually from Hampton, but I am at Hampton University. I'm the Executive Director of Workforce Development.
Hi everyone, I'm Carol Minter and I'm Executive Director of a youth development program called Soundscapes. Hope to be here representing the City of Newport News starting next time. I'm here as a guest today.
All right. Destiny, could we go back to your table?
Hi everyone, I'm Destiny Harrell, City of Virginia Beach.
Frank Truppi, Newport News.
I'm Jim Partain. I'm a Chesapeake City resident and a guest here today.
Good afternoon everyone, Dr. Kizard. I work for Tidewater Community College. I live in Portsmouth, so what am I representing? I guess both.
My name is Gus Maxwell. I work for Hampton Roads Transit as Public Outreach Coordinator. So happy to be here.
Good morning, Charlie. All right. And if we could go back here to our last, but certainly not least.
I'm Shelby Dell, representing resident City of Virginia Beach.
Hi everyone, I'm Oge Wandu Vincent, here with VDOT Hampton Roads District.
My name is Mariah David. I'm also here with VDOT Hampton Roads District and Planning.
I'm Larry Beltram with Virginia Wesleyan University, and I manage our corporate learning program.
Hey, I'm Charlie O'Brien, and I'm here with the Hampton Roads Gen Z Commission.
All right. My name is Quan McLaurin, and I am our Civil Rights and Community Engagement Liaison here at the PDC and TPO.
Katie Kelliford, Communications Director here at the PDC and TPO.
And I'm Nikki Johnson. I'm the Regional Economist here at the PDC. And I'm Malia Amos. I'm the Vice President of the CAC.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being with me. This is my first time. I'm first time here. In my ear. So do we have any motions to amend the last meeting agenda? Can I have a motion to approve the meeting agenda as presented?
Thank you, Pamela. We have a motion. Carolyn, I'm so sorry. Thank you, Carolyn.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. And then
Is anyone opposed?
And can we just have a vote for if you approve, you say aye, and if you oppose, you can say nay.
Aye.
Aye. All right, the agenda is approved.
Any public comments?
There were no public comments that were submitted prior to this meeting. Are there any members of the public here who would like to address the CAC? All right, having heard none, there are no public comments.
Can I have a motion to approve the minutes? A draft of the February 12th, 2026 meeting minutes is attached for your consideration.
Thank you, Destiny. A second?
Second.
Who was that, sorry? Oh, thank you, Frank. All right, any opposed? All right, could we have a vote? In favor, you can say aye. Aye. All right. Passes unanimously. Minutes are approved. Good morning, gentlemen. All right, and we can
All right, so item number 6, we have the Hampton Roads 2026 Economic Forecast with Nikki Johnson, the Regional Economist for HRPDC.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. As I said, I'm Nikki Johnson, the Regional Economist here at the PDC. I'm here today to discuss the economic outlook for 2026. If we think back to 2025, we know we faced a lot of policy changes and economic uncertainty, and yet what you'll see today is that the national economy remains remarkably resilient. But that is less true for Hampton Roads, where federal cuts have really had an outsized impact on our regional economy. So starting with the most broad measure of our national economy, we can see that GDP, gross domestic product, contracted in the first quarter of 2025. That was largely due to the pre-ordering to get ahead of the tariffs, which reduced net exports. Then in second and third quarter, we saw a surge in growth. We did see a significant slowdown in the fourth quarter of 2025, which is 0.7% growth. That's in part due to the shutdown and then the partial government shutdown. But if we look annually, we see that GDP increased about 2.1% in 2025. And that's roughly around the historical average, and that really highlights the resilience of our national economy in face of that significant policy change and a lot of ongoing economic uncertainty. So after peaking at about 9% in June of 2022, inflation has moderated significantly since then. We did see inflation tick up briefly in 2025, and that was mainly due to those tariff-related pressures. And while the tariffs have been big on paper, their impact has been somewhat muted in the data. Now, one big factor for that is the fact that firms are, for now, largely absorbing the cost of tariffs. There's a lot of uncertainty surrounding tariffs moving forward. One factor is that tariff policy is constantly changing, so it's really hard to forecast how it's going to play out in the future. But now, with the energy shock that we're seeing with the war in Iran, we are likely to see inflation tick up moving into 2026, moving forward. While inflation has remained above target, consumers were still spending in 2025. In Hampton Roads, we can see that retail sales were slightly below the prior year, but roughly in line with 2023 levels. And while retail sales both nationally and in Hampton Roads remain strong, we are seeing evidence of this K-shaped economy, where higher income households are seeing wealth and income gains, largely due to AI investments and a moving stock market, while at the same time the bottom half of households are seeing weaker income gains and more affordability pressures. And that's part of the reason why you're seeing this divergence in economic activity, GDP, and labor market conditions. So the number of jobs added nationally in 2025 was the lowest outside of a recession since 2003. A major factor for that is immigration. With fewer people, you just need fewer jobs added each year. And so the Federal Reserve is now saying our break-even level of number of new jobs created each year to keep labor market conditions balanced is probably near zero, just because we have such much slower population growth moving forward with less immigration. Now, while job growth has slowed nationally, it did contract slightly in Hampton Roads. Hampton Roads lost about 2,000 jobs in 2025, still well above pre-pandemic levels, but that was a significant decline. And if we compare it to job growth nationally, we can look, this is year over year. In the immediate aftermath of the pandemic in 2022, we saw that job growth in Hampton Roads was much slower compared to the nation. But then in 2023 and 2024, we were roughly in line. Job growth was increasing around the same rate as it was nationally. But now in 2025, you can see that slight break. Now as of January 2026, job growth was negative here. So it was down 0.4% when compared to the same month in 2025. This is as of January 2026, while it's just close to zero nationally. So we've seen that slight contraction here, while it was slowed down nationally. And the main factor for that is, of course, those federal cuts. We saw significant federal cuts in 2025, especially to the federal civilian workforce. Hampton Roads is home to the third largest federal civilian workforce in the country. The region lost over 6,000 federal civilian employees last year. And that's the reason that we saw that slight contraction in job growth here. If we compare federal civilian employment to to the nation and to Virginia, we know that a lot of the cuts occurred at the start of the year, right when the new administration was coming in, but the full impact was really delayed. Workers who accepted that fork in the road email, if you remember, the deferred resignation, they were still counted as employed while they were receiving severance. That severance ended in October of 2025. And so overall, what you can see here is that Hampton Roads lost about 10.4% of its federal civilian workforce, which is slightly greater than the nation, which is at 9.5%, but a little bit less than Virginia, which is at 12.2%. Now, as I mentioned before, nationally, labor market conditions cooled over the past year, but they remain positive. But slower growth does not mean a decline, as I said. But in Hampton Roads, we saw labor market conditions deteriorate significantly. Both the labor force, people who are either working or looking for work, and individual employment, people who are working, declined over the past year. The number of people who are working actually fell below pre-pandemic levels that we saw in 2019. Now, the December data did show a slight uptick, which means that we've likely seen the bottom of this decline, but we are likely to see slower growth moving forward into 2026. Overall, what we're still seeing, especially at the national level, is this low to fire labor market, right? And so layoffs have remained relatively stable, but hiring remains at its lowest level outside of recessions since the early 2000s. And because of that, since layoffs are remaining relatively stable, we don't have a lot of new job growth, we're still seeing unemployment rates at historically low levels. Now, the unemployment rate did tick up both nationally and in Hampton Roads. In Hampton Roads, the unemployment rate is historically below the national level, but that gap did narrow slightly over the past year. In Hampton Roads, the unemployment rate increased about 0.7 percentage points since January, compared to about 0.4 percentage points nationally. We're still at historically low levels. Now, part of that reason is because people are leaving the labor force altogether. So the gap between those two lines represents the unemployed. So if that gap remains the same, you're not going to see a big jump in the unemployment rate. If we look at year-over-year job growth by industry over the past year, this is in Hampton Roads. While we lost, like I said, about 6,000 federal employees, we also lost about 2,300 manufacturing jobs. We did see gains in healthcare as well as local government. These sectoral trends largely mirror what we saw at the national level. Most of the job growth was occurring in the healthcare sector, whereas the largest declines were in manufacturing and the federal government. Now, turning to the main pillars of our Hampton Roads economy, starting with tourism, we see that inflation-adjusted hotel revenue did fall below pre-pandemic levels. The data is as of the third quarter of 2025. One factor for that is in this K-shaped economy, demand is softened in middle and low-tier tourism markets like Hampton Roads, while higher-tier markets are still seeing strong growth. Now, with increasing fuel prices that we're seeing right now due to the war, we are likely to see a negative demand impact on tourism moving forward, so we are likely to see slower growth to continue into 2026. Now, there is one bright spot for the Hampton Roads economy, and that is defense spending. So even though we saw these significant federal cuts, defense spending increased considerably in 2025. We then saw the $900 billion National Defense Authorization Act for 2026 get passed, That included pay increases for military service members. It also included significant investments in shipbuilding. Both of those are a significant positive for our region, and they will provide that much needed boost for our regional economy moving forward. Last week, we saw the President release his proposed budget for fiscal year 2027. That's a $1.5 trillion defense budget. That also includes significant investments for shipbuilding and further increases for military service members. So once again, these are positive for our region and will provide a boost while we're seeing the downturn in our other two main pillars. That third pillar, of course, is the port, which faced significant headwinds in 2025. We saw a lot of tariffs and economic uncertainty, and we did see a slowdown. TEUs, the 20-foot equivalent container units, through the port fell to their lowest level since 2020. But they did, however, remain above 2019 levels. So not a significant shock, but a slowdown significantly. Now, we saw a slowdown both in imports and exports. We do know that the Port of Virginia is one of the largest exporters of soybeans on the East Coast. When we saw China retaliating tariffs, they reduced their soybean purchases from the United States, which means that we saw slower exports through the port. And then, of course, the tariffs overall and reduced imports through the port. Turning to the housing market, home sales ticked up in 2025 from their historic lows in 2023, but we're still well below those pre-pandemic levels. Prior to the pandemic, we were hovering around 2,300 to 2,500 homes sold per month. Now we're about 2,100, so we have yet to reach those pre-pandemic levels, but we did see an uptick. The key driver for that uptick was mortgage rates. Mortgage rates declined over the past year, and that really eased pressure on home buying. But with inflation expectations increased due to rising energy prices, that's going to see an increase in interest rates like mortgage rates. And so March marked the first uptick in the mortgage rate in 8 months. How much mortgage rate increase moving forward just really depends on how the war plays out moving forward and how long we see energy prices elevated throughout the year. Now, home price growth slowed from its rapid pace during the pandemic, but over the past year, we are seeing home price growth accelerate faster in Hampton Roads than relative to the nation. You're starting to see that gap increase, especially over the past year. Home prices increased an additional 2.7 percentage points in Hampton Roads compared to just 0.2 percentage points nationally. One factor that's keeping home price growth elevated is the shortage of available homes for sale. Now, the month's supply of housing inventory, this measures at the current pace of sales, how long would it take you to sell off all of your existing inventory. So prior to the pandemic, the month's supply of housing inventory was about 3.1 months, roughly in line with what we saw at the national level. And then we saw during the pandemic, it fell to a historic 1 month. Now, we have seen a rebound both nationally and in Hampton Roads, but we can see in Hampton Roads, as of the latest data for February, we're about 2.3 months compared to 3.4 months. So that tighter inventory is likely why we're seeing faster home price growth here in the region relative to the nation. And it's not just home, we're also seeing rent increase at a much faster rate here in Hampton Roads relative to the nation. So just over the past year, rents increased an additional 8.1 percentage points here in Hampton Roads. That's from January to December, compared to just 3 percentage points nationally. That gap has really increased significantly. And if we look at comparison metros, so metros with a similar population size, we saw some of the fastest home rental price growth over the past year relative to those other metros. Now, I know that was a lot at once, but altogether, our forecast is expecting really a marked slowdown in economic growth, but I do believe that it's going to stay positive. And the big factor for that is defense spending. It's a key sector of our economy, and it's going to be a key stabilizing force for us moving forward. Now, positive but a slowdown, because I do think there's still a lot of downside risk, right? We are seeing a slowdown in demand, both in port activity and especially in tourism. The new factor with the war and energy prices is going to hamper that even more. One thing I also want to point out is that in Hampton Roads, our largest contributor of population growth is net international migration. We consistently lose residents to net domestic out-migration. There's more residents leaving for other parts of the country than people coming from other parts of the country here to Hampton Roads. And so with changes in immigration policy, we are likely to see further constraint on population growth moving forward, and that's also going to play into our labor market as well. Now, the federal cuts, the pace of them has slowed considerably, but how that drag really plays on our economy moving forward is still a question. How many of those workers who did take a severance or who retired early, are they going to stay in the region and find a job here, or are they going to leave altogether because they can't find equivalent work here? That's still a question that we have moving in. But overall, modest growth. There's still a lot of risk towards the downside, so there is a risk of a recession, but I still think that we'll stay positive. That's all I have. Any questions?
I have a question. You mentioned the one of the upsides as investment in, you mentioned that one of the upsides in it is the investment and the income that is coming in from basically the war, right? I'm curious, how does that impact like the housing, like what's the correlation between like the housing market that you spoke of? Like, are soldiers receiving more benefits? Like, how is that directly correlating to what we're seeing in the housing market and it being a positive for the economy in terms of people in Hampton Roads?
So some of that is going to be timing overall, right? We saw those pay increases in 2026. Most of the data that you saw in the housing market was from last year. It's going to take a while for that to shuffle through. I think if we see more military personnel come here and they have higher investments, that is going to positively impact home prices overall. But I think the greatest factor in home price growth is just the shortage. You don't have enough homes for the people that are already even here. And that's what's really causing prices to rise.
Pardon me, Nikki, when you say positively impact house prices, do you mean increase the price of?
Yes, just in a math term, I mean positively. It's bad for us, but yes, home prices increasing overall. Thank you. Yes. So I think it's more of a shortage than military personnel and their higher wages, even though that definitely is a factor.
Okay, thank you.
Well, when you look at the amount of homeless that we have, and I see a lot of increase in building of homes or townhouses and all together. My concern is, one, are they actually being totally filled to capacity? And then also the cost of living to be able to purchase the homes or the townhouses. That has seemed to be a big problem overall, and with the fact that there are those individuals that have lost their jobs and their pensions and their retirements and all. What are we going to be able to do to be able to help them sustain? And when you speak of the military, hopefully that they come in here, but with the war going on, a lot of them are going out, and and we're concerned about them as well, because we have no choice but to do what they're assigned to do or where they're stationed at. But again, the cost is high. And then again, when we look at this area, Virginia here, this is an area that most people come to retire. But yet the development is to make us larger and like other large states and all, and take away that area of retirement where you can enjoy your neighbors and all, and not have that fast-paced living. And we take it away from those that are farmers, where with the new technology of solar system and all, and the technology, it's taken away from this area. So how are we going to balance all of that? And then also we have a number of people that are still unemployed. We have, the elderly working at, fast food places and Walmart and everything because they just don't have enough to sustain their household.
Absolutely. So, housing affordability was a problem before the pandemic, before any war. It's been a problem for a long time. It's still a problem today. The housing boom that we saw during the pandemic only exacerbated those issues. And it really, when it comes to affordability, what I talk about a lot is just we need to build more. The more you increase supply, the more you reduce the price. Right. And that's really the key to getting all this moving forward. We have seen a lot of building over the past few years, but it's still not enough, right? When I talk about the month supply of housing inventory, we're still not meeting demand. And so that's really the key moving forward, is how can we increase housing production, and that will help the entire income line moving forward. Now, there's other things that we still need to do to make sure that people don't fall through the gaps, but that's where we need to start, is increasing housing production.
Well, I like it with the fact that you said that this is something that's been going on consistently. And so my question would be, before we tackle forward, let's take care of the old concerns, which are the individuals and the residents that live within our state, in our community, that do not have the finances to be able to buy and to take care of their, household. And so I understand that, life is going to be life. We're going to continue to multiply and increase and fill the earth. But yet we still have to take care of all of God's people within the earth. For there are many that do not have the finances to be able to maintain a household, to take care of being able to buy food, medication, and all of that. And with the fact that a number of people have lost jobs and pension, so yes, housing is good to build, but if you can't pay to live in the housing.
Yeah. The one thing driving that price is the type of housing that we're building. So we just had an excellent presentation this morning from Housing for Virginia, where they did an analysis of zoning within our region and looking at the different restrictions on the types of housing. We're still building a lot of these huge single-family homes, and that's really driving up housing prices. If we can reduce restrictions on the types of homes, starter homes, manufactured homes, even accessory dwelling units, those type of things, to really help different types of residents that are living here, that can really increase supply in and of itself. And that's a constraint that's keeping prices up as well. So there's a lot of different ways that we can kind of tackle this. We just have to start.
Well, I see that they have the increase of providing places for senior citizens. But what about people with disabilities that need a place to live at, that they can be safe to still be able to go where they need to go to? Also looking at them for having reliable transportation, because Uber and Lyft is not costly for them as well. And so it's about security and IRL.
No, you're good. Thank you, Ms. Grandy. And I will say, if you could hold that. No, not. Your input is perfect, so thank you. This is what we're supposed to be doing here, having conversation and discussion. But particularly that thought, I've exercised later on today, and I think that there's a perfect place for that to fit into. So if you could hold on to that and put that in there. And then, Madam Vice Chair, I believe you have 2 additional questions from Ms. Minter and Ms. Taylor right here.
Thank you. I'm all over the place right now. I'm not from here, so I come from a different perspective of housing. And not all cities, from what I looked at in outside, are amenable or friendly towards affordable housing in the cities. Do you find that to be the case? Do you see that changing in the future? And also, have they considered co-op style of living, where you build a community, but you have people buy shares into the apartments and committee? You can also do commercial style, renting of spaces and retail. I mean, so many things could happen with that. And with the military, what are the trends with the military? Do you see more of them buying homes outside of the base or now living on the base because of course? What do you see with that? And more people moving from the housing market into the apartment style living? Because I see it here, a lot of people retiring are downsizing, and it's cheaper to cut down on gas maintenance, water bills, and all the utilities that you pay to move to apartment style buildings. And I went recently to a location over in this area, Chesapeake, but it's pretty much patterned after town center. So that's another thing for the high cost of living, and that's creating a big divide between those that cannot.
Are you referring to Summit Point?
Yes. And also in the city, what we dealt with New York City, you could go across the street, there's a project, across the yellow line, multi-million-dollar apartments, but we also shop in the same grocery store. But here, there's too much of a divide, and so you don't have a community aspect of conversation unless identification. If we don't like the way they're picking up our garbage, the people from the project, or the people from the million-dollar homes, we're going to call a press conference and pick it in front of wherever we need to. So I think there's not enough conversation between the economic brackets. I'm sorry, as I said, I'm all over the place. Because I just see the difference of being here. And even, I've had people ask me, well, what zip code do you live in? I didn't realize that was a determining factor of what people got in that workforce. You know, and I was very insulted when I realized that. So I'm sorry, I'm all over the place.
Well, and I think too, if I may, Nikki and Madam Vice Chair, I think a key component of what you're talking about is having mixed income housing, and right. A great example of that is over the Choice neighborhood redevelopment that you're doing in Newport News. We had an opportunity to have a tour of that area. I believe they call it, my Newport News people don't get upset at me. I believe there's like the seafood market down there that they're redoing. There are, and then they also have some Choice neighborhood redevelopment happening there. And some of that funding came from Ms. Sharita Bethay's housing department here, and she worked with the city of Newport News on that. And one of their points in redeveloping down there was having that mixed income housing, because they have seen where, to your point, that is more effective, and you have better outcomes for the entire community. Yeah, sorry.
Is that Huntington something?
It was Marshall Ridley, right?
Maybe. I don't want to lie to you all, and so maybe I can go grab Ms. Buffet here in a second. She can confirm.
They have, according to the news, they were featuring that development, I think it was yesterday. Forgive me, I don't know networks that well. It was in the Channel 10 or Channel 13.
I do know that Ms. Uganda Sample Jones heads the Easton Civic Association for that area, and has been very instrumental in collaborating with Newport News City on that effort.
So when we go from here, do we also approach the city councils, and some cities are not friendly towards a mixed income type of?
And I'm going to ask you the same thing I asked Ms. Brandy. This is a great conversation, but I think that is actually going to be really wonderful for our last activity. You, Madam Vice Chair, you have Ms. Carol Minter and then Mr. Frank Kotropi.
And the good news is I think my question's been answered. I was really going to ask about the percentage of housing new to the community and new to the region that was affordable and multifamily at home, and I think we've really dived in on that already.
We are seeing the trend, but it's still nowhere near enough.
We had the same conversation about a year ago, same type of things. And to make housing more affordable, we cannot affect interest rates. That's beyond us here on Hampton Road. What we can do, and it is happening, is zoning. Hampton and Newport News are now allowing ADUs, accessory dwelling units. You know, grandma in your backyard or an apartment in your backyard. Instead of having to go through all kinds of paperwork, they are allowing those things. So the peninsula is allowing those to be built. Don't know, I have not seen any. I'm not sure how it's going to look, but they do allow it now. Again, a separate building in your backyard or your side yard and things like that.
And Madam Vice Chair and Nikki, if it's okay, can we move on to the next item just in the interest of time? Thank you all for the wonderful discussion.
Yeah, great discussion. So we'll move on to item 7. Start Smart, Recycle Right. Katie Cullifer, Director of Communications, HRPDC, and Rebecca Asep, Senior Environmental Education Planner at HRPDC.
So I see from the agenda items here in October 2024 to give you guys an update when we first had work underway under this grant. So today's just a little update on some progress we've made to date and where we're headed. Really quick, just Rebecca Estep, she introduced herself earlier. We work together through the Environmental Education Department here at the HRPDC. We're staff of 2, but we have a committee full of regional representation across all 17 jurisdictions. Behind this effort, they meet together. They work under the AskHRTPO.org environmental education program. They come together monthly to talk about ways that we can collaborate, and they were the driving force behind applying for this grant and seeing it through to the end. So a little background, this is the EPA Recycling Education and Outreach Grant. We were lucky enough to receive 1 out of just 25 of these nationwide when the grant program was issued, the only one in our region of the EPA regional group.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, so you could ask for up to $2 million. We were like, well, we're going to ask for 1.96 and shoot for the moon. And they said okay. So it was kind of a long shot, but we've been doing this work collaboratively for many years now. It's never been easy to do a regional education campaign for recycling when across our region recycling looks different based on what city or county you live in, and some have curbside access and some have convenience center access and different vendors and different haulers, and so it's always been a melting pot of recycling information. But we want to use this money, and we will, to put our best foot forward on how we bring the region together around recycling. So our overall goals to the grant, decrease municipal waste. So it wasn't, our application wasn't just about promoting recycling and improving that, but also decreasing waste and building awareness of the importance of waste reduction, whether it's, recycling, using, donating before you get to the point of disposal. But then once you do, or composting.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. Increasing recycling program knowledge and participation, so focusing on just universal accepted recycling basics. So what would be acceptable across the region, no matter where you live, trying to focus our messaging, our main messaging on that, but then driving people to more localized information. We want to decrease recycling contamination rates. We've heard more about that over the years, especially when China's national sword went into effect, and now all of a sudden, the amount of contamination that could be present in recycling was dramatically reduced. So that increased our awareness of how well we participate in these programs. And then overall, just increasing confidence in our local recycling programs. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into it, but educating residents on how recycling works and that it is a cycle and that it's commodity-based and the economics behind it and the jobs and the infrastructure and why that's important. So here's our timeline. I feel like we've been working on this for a decade already because we applied back in 2022. This is a 3-year grant, so we are just on the tail end of year 2, wrapping up year 2. So we have 1 year to go, May 2027. The end of May is when the grant ends. So still a lot of work to do, but I'm happy to share with you where we are today. So overall strategies and tactics that we plan to employ. We started out with research. So this was an education outreach program, but we felt like we couldn't do a really good job of that without first taking into the details and doing the research region-wide. So we did that with surveys and focus groups. And then some route level recycling audits where we actually went door to door ahead of the trucks that were picking up the trash or the recycling on collection day and checking carts for contamination and communicating people in a direct way there with cart tags. And then our education outreach portion, we've developed some web-based recycling and disposal tools that we've made available through this grant to all of our localities. I'll show those in a minute, and then all of that feeding into an overall regional advertising public education campaign that would be launched to help build awareness and increase participation. So the yellow things are kind of what's been completed, and the white is where we're still working and ready to get the campaign deployed. But for the web-based tools, there's a QR code here if you want to scan it, but this is to provide folks, no matter where you live in Hampton Roads, access to recycling and disposal information for your community. So again, thinking regionally, but providing people with important information for their local programs. So this tool gives us the ability to do that. When you go to the Waste Wizard, you can you select your community, where you live in Hampton Roads, and then based on your selection, you can type in what it is you're looking to recycle or dispose of and find out, is it recyclable in my community? Will they pick it up curbside? Do I have to take it to a convenience center? Is it a paint can or aerosol can? Does it need to go to household hazardous waste? So it's a really, here's a look of it. I should have already clicked on that. But a really handy tool when you go to the Waste Wizard. So I've selected here, I think I selected Suffolk for this example, but a greasy pizza box. So we've known greasy pizza boxes are contaminated. That cardboard gets soaked and saturated with the oil. If it were a clean pizza box, you could recycle it. You could rip off the lid if that doesn't have the oil in it. So this one should be put in the trash cart in this particular community. The second tool that we deployed is this Ready, Set, Sort game. So an interactive game really targeting the youth, but really adults as well enjoy doing the game to test their knowledge about recycling and disposal measures in the region. So kind of looks a little bit like Hampton Roads. You have the beach and the Coliseum and Norfolk over there, Nauticus, but these items, you select the waste stream where it goes, whether it's recycling, if it's a special pickup or drop-off, household hazardous waste, and then you go through the stages. There's like 3 or 4 different iterations that you walk through, and you're able to get a certificate at the end, but it's just a fun, interactive way to learn about recycling and disposal in the region and also test your knowledge. So since we deployed this, we've already had 15,756 different materials viewed through the Waste Wizard, almost 8,000 user sessions. So it's been very popular. It's the #1 driver to our Ask HR Green website, from Google search and paid search as well as organic. People just looking for how do I dispose of this in Virginia Beach, in Chesapeake. So all that traffic, we're able to collect it, bring them to the website, take them to this tool, and it's an easy way for them to get access to the information. And we've had just under 700 plays of the game. People on average spend about 6 minutes and change playing that game. So they're going through all the process, going through all the stages, which has been really helpful to see. So for surveys and focus groups, we didn't really get funding from EPA. They have some really strict rules about how you do research, but we felt like it was really important to still do this research. So we funded this locally through our program budget as a complement to the EPA grant, so that before we launched an education campaign, we could know kind of where it is we are and help that guide where we're headed. So this was a baseline survey that we did last year, and we plan to repeat it at the end of next year to kind of measure our progress in terms of recycling knowledge and confidence in Hampton Roads. We deployed it March, ran through May until May of last year. Overall, just under 1,100 responses. This was region-wide. It was for all communities, whether they had curbside or convenience center recycling. We wanted to hear from folks. And then we did 6 focus groups as well. 3 were in person, 3 were virtual. 4 and 2? Either way, some in person, some virtual. And again, this was a cross-section of the region, so people who had recycling, curbside, or just convenience centers, those who said they participate in recycling, and those that did not, so we could hear from all sectors of those. If you've ever participated in one or listened in on one, like fantastic qualitative data that can help guide your campaign efforts. And I'll share that in just a minute. So overall, from some of the main takeaways, we heard a lot, but the survey, so this was a national survey that was done through the Recycling Partnership that we kind of mimicked, called the Recycling Confidence Index, and we tailored it for Hampton Roads so that not only we could learn what we wanted to learn about from the region, but also kind of compare ourselves to the national benchmark that was available, and it made developing a survey easier than to start from scratch. But we did work with a research firm to do that so that it was statistically significant and well orchestrated. It was multimodal, so phone, web, and then also postcards were mailed, and people could respond through the URL QR code on the postcard. So more than 80% of people agreed that recycling makes a difference. So that was really encouraging to hear. And also, when they listed the reasons for recycling, top reasons were good for the environment, reducing landfill waste, reducing litter, and then the importance of just waste reduction, repurposing waste instead of just trashing. We learned also there's an opportunity to expand our education and outreach. So even though people responded that they participate in their programs and they had they felt like they knew how to do it, almost 70% couldn't recall receiving any messages about recycling education in the last 6 to 12 months. So we definitely saw an opportunity there to improve that metric to make sure that people are getting information about their recycling programs on a more regular basis. Residents definitely want to know what happens to recycling beyond the bin. So this is loud and clear, not just through the surveys, and asked them when they had the opportunity to rank questions about recycling, the ones that rose to the top, where does it go, how does it work, and how much is actually recycled. And then we heard that also loud and clear in the focus groups. People definitely indicated there's a disconnect between what happens at the curb or the convenience center and what happens later at the processing facility. So a huge need for us to help with that level of transparency in our education program. Many residents consider recycling through a cost-benefit lens. So while most agree it's good for the environment, there's still uncertainty around whether our municipal programs work and they're efficient and they're doing what they should be doing. So, demonstrating that in our public education outreach efforts is going to help build that confidence as well as communicate the cost efficiency of our programs. So normalizing recycling and recycling right. I'll talk a little bit about the set-out rates. So in Hampton Roads, a lot of our curbside programs, all of them, are every other week. But when we compare ourselves to the national average, we seem to have lower participation rates in those every other week programs. So there's an area there first of improvement with education, but then also the focus groups. Over the years, we've tackled contamination more and more, like the greasy pizza boxes, telling that story about what is not acceptable for recycling and the consequences of that. And sometimes, I think the takeaway can be discouraging to people, and also feeling like, oh, well, if their neighbor doesn't do the right thing, that it impacts what I'm able to do. So that is certainly an opportunity for us to have that mindset as we go forward in our education and how we, one, we want to encourage people to participate in the programs regularly. That should be a norm for us, but also, the impact that that a neighbor has on your own efforts. Knowing that does have a psychological impact on how people participate. Our recycling messages should be empathetic and local. So the focus groups are a great proving ground for testing ad creative. So we were able to show them some national campaigns as well as some local things and things that we've done in the past and how those focus groups react to them, and it's very telling. So They definitely favored things that are credible, fact-driven. We showed them an example in Minneapolis, St. Paul, where there's a dashboard that shows tons that are collected by each commodity, and then also gives an idea of where those materials are then being transported and what manufacturing process, or who's the manufacturer that is then using those materials. And that was really something that resonated with people. So that is, as much as it's great to be funny and playful and attention-getting in advertising campaigns, we need to keep this in mind as we roll out our regional program, that we need to stick with the facts as much as possible too, to build that confidence. So that was just a really brief overview of our survey and focus group findings. And then I wanted to talk about the Feet on the Street program. So these are those route level, curbside, recycling cart audits. It's very targeted outreach. You don't get more targeted than going door to door and checking people's carts and leaving tags with feedback. And there's an element of cart rejection here too, where if the carts are heavily contaminated or continue to be contaminated, where the cart's not serviced that day, as a way to remind people of what is accepted and what's not. We did this in 6 jurisdictions across the regions. You can see here in Illinois, James City County, York County, Newport News on the peninsula, and then Norfolk, Virginia Beach, and Suffolk over here on the south side. It was an 8-week cycle, so 4 collection cycles, since we have every other week programs. It was about just over 32,000 households. Which I will say, being a department of 2, we could have never pulled this off. This is, 2 different recycling vendors, more than 2 different haulers, like Hampton and Newport News, some of the localities. They haul their waste to the recycling processor. Some they do pick it up themselves. So coordinating all of that to get a crew of temporary staff out ahead of the trucks was a feat that we would have never been able to accomplish. So through this grant, we were able to do a sub-award with the Recycling Partnership and National Nonprofit. We've done this successfully around the country many times, and we're able to use their expertise in order to make it happen. So how it works is we did measure before and after we started the Feet on the Street program. So we, with a team of volunteers throughout the region, the different routes that were selected in all the communities, we picked a subset of them, and we actually went to the processing facility. When the truck came in, they dump it out on the floor, and then we take a random sample that weighed 150 pounds altogether. So you just fill up carts, weigh them, and then we take that 150 sample and we spread it out, sort it by commodity. So you're picking out the cardboard, the glass, the plastic bottles, and then the contamination of residue is also a way to figure out your percentages. Felt like, even though that was an ugly, stinky process, it was important to do so that in addition to the data we got from Feet on the Street cart tagging, we could measure what our contamination rates were before this intervention and after. So we did that. We then informed residents who were going to be part of this program. We did a news release with the media, localities that were involved in communication through their local channels. We mailed a postcard to each of the households, just reminding them of recycling best practices and what's accepted in their local programs and what's not. And then the engagement part is we've had this temporary team that would go out ahead of the trucks on collection day. They would open the cart. They would not take anything out or touch anything beyond lifting the lid. Take a quick look. They have an app specifically for this that would take a photo. It uses AI to analyze what's in there. If there was more than 2 visible contaminants in there, then they would mark it for tagging it with a OOPS tag, which I'll show you what that looked like. And then they would mark what the specific contamination was. It's just a reminder that's been accepted. And then all the reporting was done through that app as well. So this is what the mailer looked like that went out. This is the one that went out to Suffolk. Each one of these was customized to the community specifically, but here's a reminder up top. We also had this translated into Spanish as well, and then reminders of the common contaminants at the bottom. This is just a look at some of the media coverage we had about the program that was happening as it was going on as well. And these are the OOPS tags. So there were 4 passes The first pass is just an education period. So there's no rejected carts. The orange tag is what's delivered there. So if there is contamination, the person would tag it, leave it on there. That way, when the person and their cart would still be collected. But then when they take it back to the house, they would see, the message about, please remember that this doesn't go in the cart. And then after the first pass, then if there's contamination again, this is all done through GPS coordinates and through this technology. So the people that were scanning would know if they came to an address on the second pass and they had a tag before, the scanner would know that. So at that point, they would get the red tag, which was the rejection tag. So still contamination present, they would put the red tag on, they would turn the cart, and then when the truck came down the street, they would know not to collect from that cart that day. Now all we were asking is that they would remove the specific contamination from the cart, and then it would be serviced on the next scheduled collection day. This is scary for localities to do at first, for some, for many, I would say. In fact, we had 7 communities in this project until the 11th hour, and then we only had 6. So, but I will say, I'll get to this later too, that, the intent is really to deliver the education, to the residents so they know about the program, what is accepted and what's not. And you'll see in our data, we did not have a ton of rejections to begin with. So overall, 32,193 households reached, did 59,282 inspections. You would think it would be more than that with 4 cycles, but again with weather, but also the set-out rates being a little bit lower than we would expect. That was the reason for that. Overall, 3,684 warning tags, those are the orange ones, and only 668 rejection tags across 32,000 households for 8 weeks. I was pretty impressed to see those numbers. I was proud of Hampton Roads.
Does that mean the warning tag worked? What did you say?
So this will tell you, so pass 1 was that first round where it was only warning tags, and then pass 2 through 4, you had the opportunity for the rejection tags. So you did see a decrease just from the first round to the last round, but then it was a 36% reduction in just tagging in general. But of the tagging occurrences, so of the total population, 82% received no tags at all. So not enough contamination to warrant a tag in the first place. We had 1 tag, 15%, 2 tags, only 2.3%, and then 3 and 4 tags is like 0 point whatever. Of the number of tags left, so 85% only needed 1 tag to correct their recycling behaviors, and after that, 12.8% 2 tags, only 1.4% 3 tags. There are some people who use it as a second trash can. That is very apparent. We learned that as well from the recycling audits. There are just bags of trash, and that is what it is. But overall, I think most people use the recycling can as that and try their best, even though recycling can be confusing. So that's certainly what we found. This is just to look set-out rates by pass. Again, this set-out rate is just the number of carts set out within a 30-day cycle. So we're a little low, 62% in Hampton Roads. I think on average, it's from 70 to 85% nationwide for an every other day program like ours. So there's, again, some work to do. And do people not remember what day it is? I know in my neighborhood it was always, whoever puts their card out first, that's like, oh yeah, it's recycling week. So there could be some of that with reminders that people need, or maybe there's another issue there. But the clean carts by pass, you can see pass 1. Again, we started out like almost 90% clean carts without contamination. By pass number 4, we're at 94%. So a marked improvement. And this is what some of the contamination looked like. So again, that app was so helpful because our phone number here at the PDC was the one on the card that they got, which made us really nervous for 32,000 households to be potentially getting these and us getting those phone calls. but we didn't get very many when we did. We were able to log into the app and pull up the address and look at the picture and say, yeah, Mr. Smith, unfortunately, your recyclables have to be loose and not in a bag, and then we can explain why, because when it gets to the processing facility, they are processing tons per hour. There's no way for them to open up every bag and look inside and see, is this trash, is this recyclable? And so it's treated as trash when it gets there. So if you want to, so if you want your recycling efforts to, not go to waste, just please leave them unbagged. So we're able to have these conversations, and people typically, I would say 98% of the phone calls, people were very pleasant. They just wanted to know more. Plastic clamshells were a huge thing. Most of our calls were related to that. People just didn't know. It's a number 2 plastic. They just thought it was acceptable, which it is recyclable, it's just not in our local programs. But this tool was so helpful for being able to do that education with people directly. And then just the contamination breakdown. So as we suspected, bag recyclables was, and plastic bags and film were the major contaminants. So either people were bagging their recyclables, or they're just doing that film and wrapping, plastic wrapping, putting it in their carts when they shouldn't be. And then everything else was a little bit smaller. The garbage, so people doing the bag waste, which is also very heavy. So you can think about the impact that it has on total weight when you're doing that. Styrofoam, and then the clamshells there, and then food or liquid. Obviously that contaminates paper products, things that are hard to recycle. So I mentioned the audits that we did in all of the communities. You can see the total column in the middle there. It shows their pre-feet on the street contamination rate. So York County was at 37%. After this project, they were at 20% when we went back and did the audit. Virginia Beach went from 36 to 26%. Newport News 56 to 46. James City County 32% to 16. Suffolk 44 to 34. And Norfolk 52 to 33. So across the board, contamination reduction on the waste audit side too that we saw. Anyway, overall decrease. When we were doing the audits, we thought at the start to separate out the bagged waste because, again, that weighs a lot. So we wanted to see, in addition to just the overall contamination, what kind of a decrease could we see in just the people putting the bagged waste or the bagged recyclable in there. So that's just a breakdown of where we are for those numbers. To that. Just some lessons. Say lessons from the curve, but just overall from the research and the feet on the street, things that we're taking forward as we go into the education campaign portion of the grant, closing the loop. So feedback matters. People want to know what happens next. Especially if you're asking them to participate in a certain way, we need to be mindful that we close the loop in our education. I say no shame in the contamination game. We have been too adamant about emphasizing the harmful effects of contamination in our education in the past, which has a negative impact. It doesn't help people do the right thing. It discourages them from doing it in the first place. And so we want to be mindful of those contamination messages and how we get that out there in our public education. And then enforcement works. Again, the cart tagging rejection can be a deterrent for some. But if done in the right way, it definitely works and has an impact on how people participate in the programs. So next up, we're looking to launch an advertising and public relations campaign. I would say any day now. We are in the development phases of this. There's been a few challenges, I'll say, with, there always has been with the regional campaign, but last October, November, VPSA, the Virginia Peninsula Public Service Authority, manages the contracts for Williamsburg, York County, James City County, and Pocosin. Canceled their recycling contract with not a lot of notice, which left those programs in limbo. It was like 40,000 curbside recycling homes that didn't have service for a little bit. Those have all been restored since as of January this year, some new contracts in place. So that was all happening as we were trying to develop this regional campaign. We also have SIPSA, our neighbors over here with the alternative waste disposal program, SIPSA sorts, they just had the ribbon cutting last week at the facility in Suffolk, in Portsmouth, and they're going to be doing a mixed waste recycling program. Portsmouth is already on that system, and so that plays into a regional education campaign too. Like, we tell people to recycle, and in some localities that means put everything in one bin. In some localities you're separating it out. In some localities you're taking it to a convenience center. So all of that is playing into how we approach this from a regional campaign. It's made it a bit of a challenge, but also trying to, reminding us of our role as the PDC is to bring everyone to the table and figure out what works best for everyone and how do we do this work together. These tools I showed you, like the Wet Waste Wizard, that's a wonderful way to be able to point people regionally to the right information locally. And so we're using that as we move forward to develop this campaign that's forthcoming. We plan to do some direct mail when this is ready to the approximately 400,000 or so households with curbside recycling programs. This is just a prototype. It's not a final of kind of one of the creative directions we're working on. That don't guess, just ask. Again, AskHRPing.org is our regional program. But putting the QR code right there on the bins, maybe we have magnets because a lot of people make those decisions in their kitchens before they take it out to the bin. Like, directing people to that information and making it easier to access it is definitely a goal that we have. This is not final, so it will be changing. And then convenience center signage, so we know that, right here in Chesapeake, we don't have curbside recycling programs over on the peninsula, some of the western parts of the region, and then as SIPS's program moves forward, there will probably be more convenience center recycling on the south side. So duplicating those messages again, that regional branding is going to be important for those centers as well. I feel like I just talked to my 1 minute, I'm sorry. It's a lot of information to get through, but happy to answer any questions if you have them.
So Portsmouth is the only one on this new SIPSA program, not Chesapeake?
So far, Portsmouth is the first on board, but there is a plan to phase communities in. I'm not certain specifically where Chesapeake falls in line with that phase in, but I think they're supposed to be fully operational by 2028. I don't want to misspeak on their back.
Question, speaking for Chesapeake, because there were questions and concerns that came up with City Council about paying and charging things to the residents, and it seems that City Council like to put everything on us. Okay. However, with the recycling, some of our concerns was that when we did have recycling, it was also education for our children in schools and all that had, recycling and different things that they were doing to help the earth and everything. But again, the cost was always put on the residents. So in doing this and expanding it, when it goes before City Council, would this also help to reduce the cost on the residents?
So there's a lot of things, ways I can respond to that. So in wherever you live, if there's recycling through your municipality, you're paying the cost of, like if it's in the general fund, then it's just coming out of real estate taxes. But many municipalities have the separate fee on your monthly, like in Virginia Beach, they have a combined services fee with water, wastewater, sewer, and a monthly trash fee. So you pay it that way. So it's being paid for either way, whether it's a separate bill. And so I think a lot of it was communication about how that works. And they were also looking, it's a budget decision. You have a limited amount of money, and you want to fund your public safety official or your public safety personnel, and you have to look at the line item. For Chesapeake, it was more affordable, and they felt more effective to go to a convenience center model, which many other localities do as well, versus offering the curbside and charging customers an additional fee to participate in it. So I know that the SIPSA, I can't speak on their behalf, but
I can speak to that.
Yeah, please.
So I actually got a chance to connect with CIPSA. They have incorporated a new sorting process into that Katie alluded to, and they'll be briefing the CAC at a future date. Thank you, Ms. Colfer. In the interest of time, just because I want to hear y'all's feedback, right? So as a CAC, y'all are a Community Advisory Committee. Thank you so much. All right. Emphasis on advisory, right? So your job is to provide the HRPDC and the HRTPO with input on regional planning processes. The term advisory, and you're in the name of the CAC, the Community Advisory Committee, makes you a public body, okay? That's why we're subject to FOIA. That's why we have to proceed with our meetings in certain ways. Some of you have asked about virtual meetings. We're governed by the Commonwealth of Virginia's FOIA policies as a public body. So I'm going to run through this quickly. If you're like, Quan, I need more insight, if you go back to our December presentation, it's all recorded there. This is just a quick refresher so that I can get to the end and get to the questions, all right? So, oh Lord, it has transitions. All right, review of the CAC and the PDC and the TPO. So the CAC, again, that's that advisory body. It's intended to provide us with input. You've all probably heard me use the word bidirectional a lot. I probably say it almost once a meeting. But it's true. I want the communication that happens here to be bidirectional. I want you all to receive the information and then to go out, be our regional ambassadors, and disseminate that information into your respective communities. And then, there's the other part that I need, you to bring that information back to us and to incorporate that into our regional planning processes. I'm going to skip over the purpose because I feel like I already captured that for you. You're at the PDC, okay? The purpose of planning district commissions is to encourage and facilitate local government cooperation and state-local cooperation in addressing on a regional basis problems of greater than local significance. Some of you have come to me, you've asked me about issues that are specific to your communities. Is it okay if I? Okay, so a great example are our friends over here in Pughesville, right? So Pughesville is a historically black community, and it borders on Suffolk and Chesapeake. They have what are called paper streets, which means basically that some of their streets are not completely paved. As we know here, we have a lot of recurrent flooding. So I talked to my friends over here, and they're like, hey, Quan, do you know what's going on over here? We're getting flooded. We have our babies standing out there at the bus stops, and they're, in their rain boots. They got water up to them. Can y'all do something as HRPDC? Unfortunately, I had to have the tough conversation and communication of, well, because Pughesville is a specific community or a subset of Chesapeake and Suffolk and is not considered regionally significant as far as like a major roadway going through there, enough traffic going through to be considered part of the regional planning process, I wasn't able to do something from here, from this space, but I was able to partner with our wonderful people here from VDOT, who were able to go in and tell us about what they had already been trying to do to address some of those issues over there in Pughesville. And I'm sure at some point we'll have Ms. Carolyn White and Ms. Pamela come and share with the rest of the CAC more specifically, so I won't steal your thunder. So that lets you know a little bit about our mission. And I'm just going to skip over here to locality representation. A lot of times people think you hear 7 cities. We represent 17, okay? And you can see those all up there. Now for the NPO, and that's our beautiful Hampton Roads there. That's what we're talking about when we talk about Hampton Roads, and that's our new mural that we have over here representing that. We have a couple different departments here at the, in a wide range of topics. We have economics and planning, emergency management, environmental education, which is Ms. Cullifer and Ms. Esep. Housing and Human Services, you probably saw Ms. Buffet. I went to go grab her really quick. She's gonna come back after she eats lunch. And then Water Resources. Okay, if you wanna know more, like the nitty gritty, you can have some nighttime reading and look at our work program. I'm sorry, I'm gonna, is it gonna, we're gonna skip the video this time. Sorry, Greg. All right, there we go. TPO. All right, that's the transportation side of the house, all right? So we're the Metropolitan Planning Organization, and our core functions are up here, okay? We have to establish and manage a fair and impartial setting for effective regional decision-making. Y'all are important to that. Y'all are critical to that. Y'all are part of what makes that happen, which is why I want today for us to really focus on honing those advisory skills. Evaluate possible transportation solutions appropriate to the region in terms of its unique needs. Develop the long-range transportation plan, which you have all heard about, and develop and maintain transportation improvement program, which you heard about at our last meeting from Ms. Kathleen Grauberger, and we have Mr. John Mahaley here to kind of bring that home for us. But they're the money people for transportation, okay? We're gonna skip that. Something to note, the Transportation Planning Organization only has 15 of the 17. That's because 2 of our localities actually are dual members. They're part of another MPO, but because of, how many of you, by a show of hands, are familiar with our gas sales and use tax? Okay, a couple of you. Briefly, just to give you some context and some background, all of us in here, when we spend money in the region, we help to fund all of those transportation projects that you see over there, the mega projects. The tunnel that you see being done right now that's on, getting on everybody's nerves, they're like, oh, there's congestion, how am I get through the HRPT? I'm sorry, my Hampton friend. I'm sorry, my Newport News friends who are trying to come down here to meet with us. It'll be done in 2027, okay? But that would not have been able to be funded were we not leveraging our own sales and use tax. Other regions primarily don't have that. We were one of the first to do it and provide that model because unfortunately, due to all of the waterways, we don't score well for federal funding. So what do? Just not build? No, we need to build and we need the infrastructure. All right, so that's a look at that. You see some of our partners. Again, this will all be available in your minutes and on the website. Going back to the different departments that we have for the TPO, long-range transportation planning, multimodal research and analysis, congestion management, safety, freight, and operations, and then transportation programming and funding. And like I said, John will tell us more about that later. We're together. That is, the PDC is the house, okay, and the TPO is like an ADU that is a part of the house. It's separate, but it is still part of the same unit. So thank you, Frank, for providing that metaphor. More nighttime reading. We're gonna skip this video too. Okay, for you to be successful CAC members, I need you to be engaged, communicative, kind of going back to that bidirectional communication, and then also action-oriented. I want you to know what you can do as a CAC, and I want you to be equipped with the tools and resources to be effective. And that's my job as your liaison. That's a wonderful picture that we took at the ERP. I'm going to try to get us back over there. All right. So we're going to switch into some interactive. So I need everybody to kind of get up and get to a table. We are going to put these boards that you see here onto your tables. If you have stuff, Chris and I moved this table over here just for you to be able to place your belongings. There's also a table over here. We don't have a lot of time. I'm going to stop us in this activity at about 1:50. I'm going to give you all 10 minutes. And I need you, this is just warm up, right? This is just to get that thinking going, all right? And the collaboration, break the ice with you all. In your own words at your table. Hey, y'all. I need you to describe what is the CAC and its purpose? Okay, I'm not looking for a perfect verbatim description of what the CAC is. That's what the slides are for. You can go back and look at those. You can go look at our bylaws. You can go look at the website. Pardon me, pardon me, pardon me. All right. I want you to also, when you're thinking about this, some considerations. And why did you join the CAC? Why are you here today? All right, thank you, VDOT friends. I appreciate y'all. All right, if you don't have a table, get to a table. Make some new friends.
I have friends.
I'm going to stop us at 35.
So what do y'all think?
What was the question again?
What is the CAC and what's its
Yes. Thank you, Mr.
Yeah, it says forum.
Who has good handwriting?
You sound like you do, right? All right.
We have the chairman.
Michael, can I get you over here at this thing? Thank you so much. I also love the pocket square.
I like that.
Oh, right. It's a
That was beautiful. That was beautiful.
I've read.
Okay.
My daughter's artist.
There we go.
Wonderful.
A bridge.
I also like the analogy.
In your own words, describe what the CAC is and its purpose.
So like trees have roots and mushrooms have roots.
So one thing I think about is it's a way to make sure actual perspectives are included in regional planning. So like every making sure they're.
I don't know about that.
We can do it.
I'm going to use your words. Everyday people are heard.
Well, but you're
I can think of change to CAC is Cashford.
a bridge?
Yeah, community advisory.
I'm going to try.
Oh, you're
Make sure we get it right.
So you said everyday, I like what you said, everyday people being heard.
It's like the Woodlake Drive.
You ever seen that TV show on HBO where
I stole that from you.
But then I like how you phrased it.
Yeah, so but yeah, it's like a citizens being connecting and forward. Connecting.
Conversation from us to them or them to us.
It's both. It's
two-way advocacy.
Everyday people being engaged in
Being heard and hearing.
I love it's
creative.
information.
I said two-way advocacy.
No, right. We don't care about grammar, spelling, any of that.
People that are here.
But it's just getting the thoughts out.
I care about grammar. Sorry.
I definitely don't care about spelling, especially when there's no spell check.
So you said, what about a vote?
So, you said the mycelium,
Yeah.
the mushrooms, what's underneath the,
No, this is just an example.
Try to draw a mushroom here, that's what we're doing.
That's good, yeah, it reminds me of,
I think that's like right here, and then like a separate.
The CAC was founded as CTAC in 2013. It changed to CAC in 2019, I believe, 18, to encompass the PDC as well as the TPO. I heard that question, so I want to make sure you all know. The 2013 is when it was established, and in 2018 is when it became PDC as well.
so we have this bridge, and then we have the additional. What's the word? Something else linking to what we're describing. So this connects localities, organizations, and communities. So maybe we can do like a linkage of these words at this point. What is it? Organization.
What do you think, everyday people, being everyday people, you all being involved.
I'm just, yeah, enjoying the conversation.
Opportunities to learn and engage.
Yeah, so it's really a bridge that links intelligence, communities, organizations.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a bridge and it's also
so that I can be involved.
Right, you're like, so.
Okay, so y'all are the technical people over here, because we got university, we got our VDOT technical engineers, planners, like, okay.
I think we should put generation. Because these aren't people that will learn about it, because I heard him say like Gen Z and
Okay, this is your woman, Lonnie. Don't worry, this is just a warm-up. I'm loving seeing the conversation happening, so why don't you wrap up these thoughts?
Like if all communities could
It's very different.
yeah, keep going. I think community, generation, organization.
I know it's spelled, but I'm like, what is the Well, and you're writing it down. Everyone's yelling at me to write something.
So it's kind of like, it's like really helping you have
What was the other one?
a regional
Look, y'all doing a lot back there.
perspective.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. On to the next question. Okay, just flip your sheet. New space. All right, I'm sorry, Dr. K. What departments or planning areas do you need or want to know more about to be effective CAC members? In front of you, you all have a public engagement plan, all right? This is our new and latest public engagement plan that was approved in 2026. You should have a tab page on there. Rob in the back, thank you so much for doing that for us. And there's an overview there of different PDC and TPO departments. What do you not know a lot about? What is important to you in your community? Remember, we're coming together as a region in this space. What topics cross over with our departments that you don't feel equipped to address or advise on? And remember what Katie said earlier, no shame in the contamination game. Apply that concept here. There's no shame in acknowledging if there's something that you feel like is missing. I was going to give you 15, I'm going to give you 10. Okay.
All you need to write is program and department.
I think yeah. Yes, please. Yeah, a lot of people.
What do you all like to do?
Let me turn it on. Okay.
Millennials as well.
Yeah, same.
I'm in the process. Like they keep building more single family homes. I'm like, we need some of those too. Yeah. I mean, the single family homes, they say there's some available though. They say that. They were not. Let me tell you, I bought my house at a time where you had to give people $20,000 to sell you their house. And you had to write them a letter on why they should sell your house, which is highly illegal. But factory house, especially myself. I mean, my salary.
There's a lot.
Yeah, I was like, my credit score is great, except me alone, now my partner is $200,000. Yeah, it's like, what else have to make? I think I was like, what else have to do? It's like impossible nowadays.
That's okay.
I would also using transportation at transit. Because I feel like those are very different.
Because I also have a lot of concerns for Jeff.
I agree with that.
Yes, so.
I was also saying very.
Okay, yeah, okay. So we have. Our senior member of the
I got my sweater on.
So that was
your recycling bin, and then you track the resources. So, I would even say that at the elementary, no trash can, one recycling.
Well, I mean, you still, but if you look around, at least in my neighborhood, I see a lot of people throw trash. Like, we have, you know what? Because that's, we bought the house. Yeah, but I mean, it should be the other way around, think about it. Like, if we spent more time recycling, we should have more recyclables. I mean, most of the stuff we use is recyclable. It's just a matter of, well, it's a matter of, finding ways to try to take some trash that gets recyclable. When I was in high school, we had to design a project and we made a recycling box made out of cans. And then on the inside was everything that could be recycled. The outside was everything that couldn't be. And they put it in the library, but then it started to smell really bad because we forgot to like wash the cans out. So like, it started attracting wasps to the sodas and all this stuff. It was like, we were in high school. We were not really. It was fun. Environmental science.
Environmental science. Yeah, that covers, right. Transportation, environmental.
And that crosses over two different departments.
That crosses, you're doing great.
Actually, three different departments.
You're scaring me. I'm sitting back there now.
All right, so what else besides that?
And that's a while ago. This is, I know a lot of these people. Is this the group? What is this event? Is this whole CAC?
What's the question?
What's this photo from?
I could tell you. That was our young professionals meeting, our July meeting. There goes Charlie right there.
Yep. I was like, I know a lot of these people.
Yeah, that was our July meeting, 2024. We had our young professionals come and meet with our board members and share feedback.
Are you talking about K through 12 activation?
What else? Right, if you go through this one right here,
K through 12 is something that we don't really do unless it's more of a local thing. It doesn't stretch across.
Okay, this is your 2-minute warning, 2-minute warning.
We do a lot with workforce development. Developing those skills and making sure the university is
And if you have to speak right, that's okay too.
So that's a
It's good to have an idea of what exactly,
yeah.
you know what I mean, what exactly.
Where's the intentionality of it?
That's part of,
The K-12 section.
it's part of presentation, yes, but we
I don't
have a
know a lot
specific department that is going to cover safety. Part of
I think some schools like Ben's in Gloucester, Virginia Institute of Marine Science.
I know.
They're a part of William and Mary. But I think they've recently got something going with Old Dominion as well. So there is some coordination amongst ocean science specialists.
And that's the good thing about bringing, where is that played in the region that we don't have a power line is important, but knowing that the localities region pay into it.
No, but we do that, that's right.
Well, this is the region, but
This building,
each individual doesn't have a call.
That's why I said with education it comes more workforce development, and then we also have a separate workforce development agency, Hampton Roads Workforce Alliance, right? And they deal with a lot more when it comes to skills training, not K through 12. Because K through 12 is just way more localized. It doesn't
Active transportation. Okay, yes?
Or even the same training that discusses all that.
Cost allocation agreement.
So we have
Is there anything else you'd like to know?
performance management is the department. You had a question about,
If everyone agrees, the economics in general, I enjoy hearing about
we see the system and we look for ways to work better. It has to say.
30 seconds, and then we're going to swap over to our next question.
I mean, even on, like, that's a whole other, some people want to do that.
So wrap up those thoughts. If you have to speed right, that's okay. It doesn't have to be Freddie.
Oh, trust me, I know.
Just like, because I do have to try to catch
Panicking,
that.
missed all the words.
That's how you started?
Yeah.
Cool.
Beach campus. Oh, thank you.
All right. What is missing? What is missing? Some considerations. What are topics that are important to you? And some of you have already started these conversations, so your brain's already primed, all right? And you're already on that road, and these were intentionally structured that way for that. So thank y'all. What are topics that are important to you and relevant to Hampton Roads that you don't see represented by the HRPDC, HRTPO community areas? You did this earlier. Are there any gaps that you see in the work that we do? What partners or regional stakeholders can we benefit from engaging with? Some of you are heavily engaged or partnered with nonprofits or part of nonprofits. Some of you are part of civic leagues. Some of you are part of universities. Okay, what partners or regional stakeholders could we benefit from engaging with? Sorry, let me go back there. And then I'm gonna try to give you like 6 minutes or 7 minutes.
Well, I think going off what you said about education.
Oh, that's
Okay, yeah.
That whole AI.
It's not just about workforce, and I find that to be a gap. I hear a lot of conversations about butts and seats, but not about like the experience of the talent, like quality of life. Do they have what they need to live here? Do they like living here? Like, kind of get into a little bit deeper than workforce when we're talking about talent, like not just numbers.
If we're gonna look at universities, like if
That's one thing I hear a lot.
I remember being
I don't even know if talent would have for that. You're still going
He sounds like my 5-year-old. Oh, mine? Oh, mine.
Let's say quality of life.
I got this little workforce.
I don't really know how to say that.
Now, you went immediately sour on that, right? They're not. What are you
We made some strides. It's still always shocking.
Right. How do we, yeah.
Pizza box.
No, it's not. You haven't seen the Gazette.
Okay, where I work.
It is very, I think
Tidewater has that same issue, and I'm assuming that they're probably there. Virginia Wesleyan also does as well.
No, there isn't. It's what you choose to do. You choose to go to a city council person that you know. You choose to go to a Rotary Club, tell people, or whatever.
And higher ed, but I think we do have some representation. At least one representation for our
We don't, that's what K-12 is about, we don't really touch it because schools are more localized, they don't stretch across those boundaries.
Right.
But when it comes to higher ed and how we can fulfill workforce gaps, where are the jobs that are being region?
And that's a very.
And it was, I know it wasn't.
Wake it up, wake it up.
We were talking about.
We have a lot of creatives, a lot of creative energy here. How do we look at that at a regional level? What do we do
It's hard to do
with
as a
that?
region,
Yeah,
but
you get
yeah.
the vibe district that.
Right, yep.
Norfolk.
We have Beyond District, yep.
Newport News has the Yard District.
Yeah, there's a lot of
That's a great
creative
example of where they
entrepreneurial energy
to fill that gap.
right? How do we nurture that?
Where is the trade stuff into the Bob and Nab?
Yeah.
It's very common. I graduated in 2014, and I feel like there was always like trade programs. I was doing CNA programs when I was a senior in high school. Yeah. And then they got next cosmetology. Everything came from like 6 of them. My niece came out of high school. She was in the she was a registered technician at Writing. And I'm like, how much are your server jobs? And she got that coming out of high school, and that was for her, it was like the next step to something else.
Yeah, that's how I had my CNA and I had my first semester of college.
Y'all please don't get upset with me, 2 minutes.
So that's a share.
Thank you for bearing with us, thank you.
Apprentice school, and they do the trades.
Yeah, I mean, I was a bartender all the time.
Oh, really?
Because CNA started
And
the beautiful thing is, you can always
work half-time and school half-time.
I love
So,
it.
that's a good workforce.
You just zone in.
Oh, no. When I was CNA, it was before COVID, so we don't want to eat as much. I bartended throughout college.
A lot of the things that I care about are mentioned. I'm here to take out the
A lot of fun.
I'm sorry, I gave y'all all birthday. May I please borrow your yellow or trade you for your yellow? Thank you.
Different cities have their, there is no such thing as downtown Hampton. There's no
Through this area as well as outside.
microcosms, right?
That's what I always said when I came from Chicago.
You mentioned
That's it, Lawrence City.
you have your boroughs, right? You have all the boroughs, right? Each of them has their own identity, same thing in Chicago and any other big city. But you're all from
What type of loans in front of you, Ms.
to have that problem.
What type of loans in front of you?
Friend of mine is
Most people try to figure out what is Hampton Roads.
you know what it was, so I looked into it.
We have a down payment.
I thought about that.
I'm not printing 56 pages.
I'm in a roll.
Hampton is separate from Hampton Road.
45 seconds.
So it's up to you.
How popular is it to be?
All you girls claim that.
Water is lifeblood.
And is.
All the acronyms.
So expensive.
I will say
It is true.
But then that implemented, like,
And I'm a prime example.
Having that regional identity is something that's huge. You mentioned a central distribution. All of them you mentioned affordable housing for elders.
Okay, sorry y'all, we gotta move on. But as I mentioned earlier, you can always email me, you can always call me, and guess what? We'll have another meeting in 2 months. All right, so this is, I need y'all to engage with me up here for a second. This is important, this is key. How can we, me, PDC, TPO, I'm your liaison, right? My job is not to tell you what to do or how to feel. My job is to help come together, support you, and get you the tools and resources that you need so that you can be effective in advising us. How can we best support you in being effective CAC members? I want to turn your attention really quick. I put this on the table. You all should be aware, as a public body, as an advisory group, you have the ability to pass resolutions. What does that mean? That means you can directly communicate to the board, which is comprised of your mayors, your city council members, your city managers, who make the regional planning decisions, okay? You can communicate to them what your support is for, or what your desires are, okay? You also have a place on the board. Your chair, and in your chair said your vice chair, represents your voice at the board. Use them, okay? Use them, all right? You can see here, this is a resolution to support the LRTP planning process from 2021. You have the ability to do that. Now, I'm not gonna take too much more of your time, because then y'all get upset when I cut you off. So, are there any additional tools or resources that you need to be effective? Do you comprehend your role as a CAC member? Do you feel confident accessing the resources and spaces available to you? Committees, board meetings, planning docs. Why or why not? Do you feel ownership of the CAC? Why or why not? Do you feel empowered to advise the HRPDC, HRTPO on regional planning efforts? Why or why not? Let me know, so as your liaison, I can best advocate for you and support you in these efforts, okay?
A lot of questions.
Can I just ask you all really quick? I'm sorry, I'm trying to be conscious of your time. Would you be willing to give me an additional 5 minutes of your time?
Yes.
All right, y'all got 5 minutes. Go ahead. Okay, for 3, okay. Darn it. Okay, but you know I'm gonna send you the slides.
But I have one quick thing that
Really quick, Dr. K is trying to let y'all know something.
that I would love to bring to the forefront of the group. And I want to know if you all.
Sorry, Ms. Minter, just really quick. Ms. Taylor, just really, Ms. Taylor.
Ms. Taylor?
I'm so sorry to interrupt. Just really quick.
2 things. I have to run off to an appointment so I can get back here for a 3 o'clock meeting. I think that I would like to propose that we meet once a month if possible. Number 2, I think our next meeting, whenever we decide that is, I think it would be great to go into a deeper dive and commit a meeting to these questions to get feedback, but also to get guidance, because I don't know how many of us, and I just started, so maybe you all do know, that we could do these things.
I didn't know that.
But I think that there is an opportunity here to dedicate a meeting time to these questions, to do a deep dive, to really train us and support us in how to be effective CAC members.
Thank you, Dr. K. Madam Vice Chair, did you hear?
I did.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, y'all, get to it.
I agree.
I know, I'm sorry. I wanted to give you some more time, but I'm trying to do the best. We're going to do the best with what we got, okay?
You can talk to the council guy and he might win at that point. Versus if I give him this thing.
I think we all understand.
Really, what I want you to do is discuss, and then what things rise to the surface and seem to be commonalities among you, document. And if there's anything that you find that you're like, we still have more to talk about, obviously, it sounds like we're going to have some additional conversations, but also utilize me, email me, call me, so I can make sure it's documented as well, okay?
As community members, across all the folks that work here,
I like that.
we want others to be able to right? We need you all to get the word out, to talk to others, to understand, A, what's going on, B,
We've done this before.
you affect what's going on. If there's something that's going on, we don't
Start doing it.
we have to be able to.
And each table has their own stuff, so we're all going to.
One of the things that's been really good is Lauren and Juan done a good
Yeah,
job.
we're getting close up
We could
to.
talk about what we want to do all the time, what we want in the world, then we get back to the office and we're 8 by 900,000 days. But the information's good to get out there, so like, I go in a lot of people, and
That's why
Lauren always does a great job of rehashing. So like, maybe at the end of the meeting, as part of the meeting notes,
So only giving it to half.
is like, here's how you can share it, here's a LinkedIn post, or, and they kind of do that already, like, here's this, here's who you work there.
You mentioned
Really quick
Contact
bullet
information.
points, here's how, what you can do, and like, so we talk about these things, and then very direct call to action.
Throw that out to you all.
Share this on your
Before
LinkedIn.
everyone's like, okay, let's go.
Share this at this point, and then do a good job. Here's a survey, where people, judges, as they hear some planning, and
That was good, and I enjoyed that. That was good. Talk about how long do people have to wait.
So I think, and especially when you like a lot of
What if there's emergency services once you get somewhere, but the train's in the way? Some neighbors don't say that. So that was interesting.
I'll tell you where to go.
Instead of just kind of like we're all individual, we're like going out by ourselves and coming back by ourselves.
To be honest, I think
I've heard of it,
it's like that.
I've heard of it. I think they must have said something because I've heard of it.
Kelly is one opportunity.
You are representing
You can
your
live
regional
this
leaders.
as a region.
I am
No
so
here sign this, here's your, and I think they do that already a little bit, but just like, that's helpful. Because I don't always have time to read the legislative agenda. Put it in ChatGPT and ask them.
So if anybody uses a certain road on a regular basis, they should maybe a little sign about the train tracks or whatever. Tires in traffic, Google Oculus or whatever. Oh, really?
Like kind of understanding the struggle.
And like, if there's a social media thing, there's a survey going on, like, here's a link to it, share it with, my water transit advocacy has like a Facebook.
The guy was in charge of the entire airport. That was interesting. I told us what was happening, all the building international terminals. We were going to be building a hotel. The contractor for that fell through, so now they're in the process of redoing it. Closed one runway. What they're going to do with it when it's closed, so they can have a lot of land for development. That was interesting. And again, changing the name of the airport. Norfolk International Airport. What about Hampton Roads International Airport?
Thank you all for hanging in there with me. This is the minute countdown. And as you wind down, I want you to look around. Look at who looks like they don't want to talk. Go ahead and designate them as your speaker from your table, okay? They're going to report out for you. Oh, are you the one who don't want to speak?
No, she's got to go.
You have that.
I saw that. I don't know where it is in the report, but they will tell us. That was interesting.
HRTPO tip. That's all. That's my comment. And it's a good project.
Well, HRTPO really helps with that. Like, they have a tab to discuss funding.
And then tell your friend, I know you have They all want to have a comment on it, right? But it's in there.
Fun. Field trips are fun.
But yeah, there's
Oh, are you?
well, that's why.
Well, then I need you.
Just says here,
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm going to need you all to provide your update from your table in 30 seconds or less, okay? Whoever your report out representative is. Gus, can we start with your table? Who's your representative?
Gus is.
I am.
All right, Gus, could you, and remember to project. Rob is trying to capture our input for our YouTube, and we also have to put closed captioning on there as well. So I should have said that at the beginning. That's my mistake. But if you could just project.
Do you want the last?
Your takeaways and wrap up. What did y'all learn? What were some takeaways? And I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot. You're the first one. You didn't even get to see the slide.
First meeting on the spot.
And y'all, you can phone a friend. You're the first one that's allowed.
I mean, Destiny, if you want to help me out here.
Sure. I'd probably say a big thing that kind of came up for us was understanding our role better, both in the advisory capacity, but what's our authority? I think that would be really helpful. Understanding the leadership structure, the organizational structure of the PDC. What else did we talk about?
Yeah, another part of that also is like more direct conversation between the members as well, because we have a lot of people here that represent, organizations or communities that are doing a lot of great work. So maybe we could have more conversations with everyone to figure out how we can all help each other. Because I know that, here as a representative of HRT, I know I can probably, have a lot of meaningful conversations with a lot of people here that I am not going to be able to talk to today at all for another 2 months.
Yeah.
So, maybe even more, how can we all help each other? We're all doing really cool things, great things, so we want to maybe figure out how we can all intersect, to help each other.
You have a teammate trying to tap in.
What are we going to do with the information that we get here? That was a big thing. So some of us don't do anything with it. We're not going to give this to a city councilman. That's not going to happen. We're not going to give this to anybody. We need a one-page, 4 or 5 bullets as to what we do so that we can hand it to somebody. And if they, one page with 5 lines on it, they will read that. They will not read this.
Right.
So something for us to pass out to people.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving over here. Now, I saw your hand go up, so that means you must be the speaker for this group.
I'm not a speaker. Yes, you have to describe it.
Okay, well, y'all only have 30 seconds.
Okay, so
Well, I was going to ask a quick question. So in terms of his question, would it be possible to set us up like a group chat, like a Slack?
A SharePoint?
Or SharePoint?
I will work on that. Absolutely.
There we go.
Okay, we talked about.
Not you, Glenda.
All right, hurry up.
Okay, Dr. Evans.
So, we thought that CAC is basically the voice of the community.
Yes.
So we are the link between the board and the community itself.
Absolutely. Did y'all hear that? You are the link between the board, your elected officials, and the community. Sorry, go ahead.
And we thought that every aspect of it is touched here is important. So it's hard to say that we need one more than the other.
Thank you. That was a passion project of mine. Thank you, Dr. Evans. All right, over here.
I'm just speaking so this group talked about the CAC being a place for connecting and networking, to kind of echo what they said here, a place for advocacy, and folks want to help to impact policy. And then a lot of this is really echoed environment, disability, access, and accessibility of our transportation.
Did I hear environmental justice? Okay, sorry.
And then support needed. I think our team reiterated the monthly meetings and wanting to know more detail about what we could do.
Y'all want to see little old me more?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Over here. Now, they were talking about mycelium and bridges, and we had university, technical staff, transportation. Okay, come on, y'all, give it to us.
So we said that the CAC was like a bridge.
I'm holding up for you.
The bridges together not only, communities, those are mushrooms on top, we'll get to those. Communities, generations, organizations, not only just like this localities, but there's inside of the cities and the localities, there's even, the generations and the organizations and the differences. And then you explain the mycelium real quick, because it was really good.
Okay,
it's a little bit more in depth.
So mycelium is like, for a tree has roots, a mushroom has mycelium. And so a mycelium's job in the forest is to connect all the different resources in the forest together and transfer nutrients and information across the system. So that's the HRPDC.
Thank y'all.
And then the other thing we were just going to say about like how you can help, I think you and Lauren do a great job. Anytime there's something that we need to know that we need to do, give us like 2 paragraphs, tell us what we need to do. If you feel this way, because typically if you feel this way, then write this congressperson, here's a letter, here's the information, anything that you can do to make it easier for us, or anybody, and make it easier to take to our communities, just knowing that everybody's busy. And I think you guys do a great job of that already, so just keeping it up. If you're not following Lauren on LinkedIn, she does a great recap of these meetings. You just copy and paste it, so.
And I do plan to get your pens moving, okay? So, Madam Chair, with your permission, could I quickly run us through the remaining part of the agenda? Thank you so much, Madam Chair, or Madam Vice Chair. All right, so just really quick, I want to make sure, thank you for participating and hanging in with us. I know we only have a few minutes. We're moving on to item 9 for your information. Mr. Mahaley, can you be brief, but get the pertinent information to the people?
For hours here. I need your help. Okay, first of all, everybody have a phone?
Yes, sir.
tablet, a piece of paper, pencil, something. I need you to write something down. All right, if you're on your phone, type in HRTPO.org. Go there. We have a document we put out every 4 years. It's our Transportation Improvement Program.
And if you didn't hear what Mr. Mahaley said, HRTPO.org, and you'll see TIP up there listed.
Go there. It's a huge document. It's like hundreds of pages. We have hundreds of projects, over $13 billion worth of projects. So you're all going to leave here today.
Was that billion with a B?
With a B. And you're gonna be inside of a lot of these projects. You go through HRBT. When's that thing getting done? When's it getting done? How much does it cost? All these other projects, and it's not just roadway projects. Buses. Where's my bus? I need more frequency. I need my bus to go here, there, or somewhere else. I want a trail to bike or hike on out here. All right? So there are many, many different kinds of projects in there. I need your comments. You aren't going to read the 400 some pages, I know that. But I want you to pick a couple things out from maybe where you live or a couple projects. Give some comments. Our last tip, when we put it out for public review for 30 days, this is out until May 5th. Guess how many comments I got from the public? 0. This is what's getting built in your region. Comment on it. Look at it. Engage with it. And talk to me. I can help you out. Please do that for me. I want lots of comments. And tell your friends. I know you all have friends. I don't. So I gotta come here.
I'm your friend, John. All right, thank you, Mr. Mahaley. We appreciate you. If I could bring your attention to item B for your consideration, you'll see there is a 2025 VDOT Title VI compliance review. This pertains to my area. Remember, I'm your CAC liaison, but my primary duty is compliance here in this building with civil rights, okay? We had a compliance review. We had 2 findings of corrective action. I have to go back in and update our Title VI plan from 2023 because in 2025, the President rescinded 2 executive orders. Executive Order 13166, which speaks to providing limited English proficiency or persons with limited English proficiency access to language assistance and translation assistance. We're not taking away those services, but I can't use those terms anymore in the document, so I have to go back and update it. Additionally, there was another executive order taking away 12898, environmental justice. I'm not allowed to reference that executive order anymore because it has now been rescinded. We're still going to do the work. I can't call it environmental justice. So I got 2 corrective actions and findings in our compliance review. At first, I'll be honest, I was a bit upset, but then I said, guess what? They didn't have anything to say about the actual work that was in the plan and about the content. It's about something that was outside of our control and that happened after the plan was passed, and we're going to keep moving forward and we're going to keep doing what we do. All right? Just really quick, Ms. Taylor, those items, those letters are in your agenda packet for your review, and you can see the entirety of them. They look like this. They have the official Commonwealth of Virginia stamp on them. Was that your question, Ms. Taylor? I already am. And it'll be out for public review as is required, so you get a chance to take a look at it. All right, thank you so much, Madam Vice Chair. For your, get recentered. Okay, I have a stack of papers up here. Who likes money? Raise your hand. You like money? You like money? You like money? All right, you have a chance to win one of 5 $100 gift cards, okay? Please take these. That bidirectional communication, take it back to your communities. I see some of y'all go back to some schools, you go back to some different groups, HRT. So please, Pughesville, take these. Take as many as you want. If you want more, I can send them to you. It closes at the end of April. We're only 140 away from getting 2,000. I know that the people in this room can make that possible. Let's get that input, and specifically, let's get the input and let's get the survey into the hands of the people that you don't think would be aware of this and who need to be able to provide their input the most. This survey is a bit of the exercise that you did today, which is what's important to you as community members and what should we be investing in for the future of Hampton Roads. Okay, tentative schedule. Y'all said you want to meet monthly, but right now it's bi-monthly, so maybe next month or the next meeting you come back together, that needs to be your first item of discussion, is whether or not you're going to meet monthly, and then you need to request that you have an update to your meeting cadence. But as it currently stands, you are going to meet next on June 11th, location to be determined. Keep in mind that these agenda items are rotating, and then you have the rest of your meeting time there as well. Over at Old New Business, I'm going to present an item of new but also old business. You all were talking about, I brought up the Choice Neighborhood Investments and Newport News. We have Ms. Bazay here who helped get them that money. She's going to give you a quick rundown of it, and then we're going to adjourn and you can go.
So I'm standing in between you all leaving.
Yeah.
You stay here for me. Okay. So why don't you just tag me, and I wish I had known earlier because actually the director of planning for the city of Newport News was actually over in our other conference room about it. So I am Shanita Bathay. I'm the Housing and Human Services Administrator here at the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission. Ms. Brandy is actually on my Hampton Roads Disability Board, so she has been with us and she's back, so we just got her appointed, so it's good to see her in here. So with the Choice Neighborhood Initiative for Newport News, it's generally the same for Norfolk. How many have heard about the renovations of Park Place and Tidewater in it? So it's kind of the same grant, the same program. With HUD, and I can't really speak on a lot of specifics, and if that's a topic, I can definitely, I know the Executive Director of Newport News Redevelopment and Housing, Lysandra Shaw, we've been friends for almost 30 years. And if that's a topic, I can definitely try to get her to come back to talk about it. We did a tour. I can talk about it all day, but until you actually see what is going on down there, it's a totally different thing. How many have gone downtown Newport News? I know the area. A few. Was Mr. Gary here earlier?
Yes, he was.
Okay, I thought I saw him in the back. Okay, so it's a total revitalization of that. We were able to tour it a couple of months ago, and it is a mixed income model. There are some portions that are mixed income, but what I love about it, it is bringing entrepreneurship into some of those corridors. There will be a seafood market there. There is a child care facility on there. They even, as a part of their revitalization, have a co-working portion that you can come in if you're a small business and have a place to meet, have a place to run your business. We actually were able to meet some business owners on that tour that are using it. HUD doesn't require a complete one-to-one relocation back. But the way they have really set up that community is that they want to embrace people that were originally there to be able to come back into those communities. We are also going to try to do a bus tour through the Governor's Housing Conference that's going to happen in November. You actually can. I have submitted a call of entry for us to be able to do a bus tour for those that are actually attending the conference. I can give you all information through Quan on some things that may be of benefit to you. What we try to do is the Virginia Governor's Housing Conference travels throughout the state. It's going to be here this time, so we really want to make sure we have a great representation of what's actually going on in this community. So either way, if I could set Lysandra to come, or if there is a community center,
that we can meet at?
I believe it is.
Okay.
I just need to look at what how many she can hold. So that may be a good spot for you all to meet the next time. So I would definitely work with Quan, because until you see it and walk it like we were able to do, you really don't really have the impact. I know over 25, 30 years, and now I'm aging myself. When I worked at Catholic Charities, a nonprofit, we used to do on-site home ownership and financial counseling at Ridley Circle, right in the middle of their public housing unit. And to be able to go back and see home ownership units, rental units, that total area. And within blocks, you're right on the water. So they're really trying to make sure that low and moderate income people still have a home in those areas. That's very important. They're trying to do as much as they can to prevent gentrification, that people that were from that area, that, you know, they're not welcomed or cannot afford to be there. I also welcome you all to come to our housing consortium meetings. This is some of the topics we were talking about just in the other room about zoning, why it matters.
You're trying to steal my people?
I'm trying to steal your people. You got one of mine. But it's you can't learn in a box or in a silo. So until you kind of know all the other aspects of housing and community development in other areas, you don't really know how the whole picture of the whole human comes together. So I'll be sure to make sure that our other meetings are on. Sometimes they lap, y'all are every other, we're quarterly, but great information that we do. We did zoning this time, we have done home ownership, we've done rental, we've had Nikki come in and talk about just the economic forecast and what we can look at for home values and things of that nature. So knowledge is power. So if you all want it, we can continue to give you as much data. Another plug, we are having a lunch and learn next April 13th. I can give you some information on that about employment strategies. And we are also celebrating Autism Acceptance Month. We're doing another lunch and learn on April 29th. Miss Brandy helped us get that. That's your birthday. Well, happy birthday. Log on from 12 to 1. So we wish you a happy birthday if you log in. So we're doing that in honor of autism. So be on the lookout of those nuggets that you all can be a part of as well.
Thank you so much, Ms. Buffet. And then last item from Ms. Mariah, and then we're going to adjourn.
VDOT has their 6-year improvement plan meeting that will be taking place on April 30th at 4 o'clock at the Hampton Roads District Building. I really encourage anybody to join if you want to know what's going on around the Hampton Roads area.
What was that date and time?
April 30th at 4 p.m.
Okay, and you send that to me and I'll send it out to everybody. Thank you. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn? Who said it? Oh, I need a current member. I'm so sorry. All right, thank you, Frank. Do we have a second?
I'll do it again.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Frank. Thank you, Rodney. Can we take the motion to vote? All in favor of adjourning the meeting, please say aye. Aye. That's unanimous. The ayes have it. Y'all have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.